Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about Aurora Cannabis stock. So we have a lot of things to discuss in this video. Mainly, will Aurora recover? Will they stay in business? And will they get delisted from the New York Stock Exchange? So before I get into this video, guys, just want to tell you about what I do. I make videos on publicly traded stocks on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, and I talk about cannabis stocks and the stocks that I'm currently holding. So if you guys be sure to smash the thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel for more daily videos. So let's get right into it, guys. Aurora Cannabis is starting to worry me a bit. So we've been under the New York Stock Exchange $1 minimum now for 8 consecutive trading days. So if the stock stays under $1 for 30 consecutive trading days, it will face the delisting process. And there are a couple of negative news articles coming out about Aurora Cannabis and really just basically degrading and helping to grade kind of the short-term price. Show you guys some of these articles. So there was a new article posted on thefool.com. So if I mention this article, guys, it says why the picture for Aurora Cannabis just got bleaker. A bad situation in Ontario is now even worse. So of course it talks about how revenue has been down a couple of quarters, but what's really going on is Aurora has basically gone through a couple of basically traumatic events in the company. So of course their long-term CEO stepped down, they had to lay off staff, they sold some property, and they've been issuing stock to kind of build up their cash position, but that's not really what one of the bad things is. So if you guys didn't know, in Ontario, that's where Toronto is located, so obviously a big market for cannabis sales. The government required that all retail cannabis stores shut down on April 4th. Now the good news is that these stores are going to probably open back up by next week. So let me just show you guys the article explaining this. It says Ontario cannabis stores are closed for 2 weeks after being deemed non-essential. So this is kind of a step backwards into where cannabis retailers were making money hand over fist, and now the government has shut them down for just 2 weeks. So no revenue, brick and mortar cannabis retail stores. They can only do business online. So that is obviously not a good sign. And if we continue going through the article, we can see that what's also the problem with dealing with Aurora Cannabis is obviously their cash burn. So it says Aurora is already burning through cash quickly, even with its efforts to reduce capital spending and cut back staffing costs. The company had a little over 201 million Canadian cash at the end of 2019. So what this article is basically talking about is, will Aurora Cannabis even stay in business? And I'm going to show you guys why I think this is a very, it's a very tough time for a lot of companies out here, a lot of sectors. I was talking about airline stocks, cruise stocks, hotel chains. Many companies are struggling in this time. So I want to just quickly hit on that, where I think Aurora Cannabis can survive. So let's just basically finish off the article, and basically what we're looking for is that it does say some positive things. So it says maybe, just maybe, Ontario's cannabis stores will reopen this month. If the number of coronavirus cases in Canada begin to fall off, it's possible that cannabis sales will pick up this summer. And then it also talks about how Aurora Cannabis has some derivative products. Canada's cannabis derivatives products market could also gain momentum. Aurora has already launched a vape and edible product and still hopes that this market will be a significant driver of growth. It's possible that there is a light in the tunnel for Aurora, but with the company's financial woes, the present reality for Aurora remains pretty dark now. So guys, there is a lot of negativity surrounding this company. Will they stay in business? Will Aurora stock recover? So we're going to talk more a bit about this in depth. But first, I want to really address that cash burn issue. So I think that's a serious problem for any company when they're running through too much money, because if they are simply running through money and they're having to constantly issue stock and things like that to pay their bills, there is a chance that they could go out of business or break down the company and sell off assets and get acquired by a much bigger, stronger entity. So let's just take a look at Aurora's balance sheet right now. So guys, how did I get this information? Well, I simply went to Yahoo Finance and I just typed in the ticker symbol, which is ACB, and you guys can just head over to financials, and then you go to balance sheet. So looking at the balance sheet, or how much cash that they have on hand. So currently they're dealing with 156 million US dollars and cash on hand, and a lot of that was derived. They did a recent stock sale, which kind of diluted the stock even further. So now there's currently just over a billion shares outstanding of Aurora stock. So what is going to happen to Aurora Cannabis? Well, with 156 billion, obviously things are going to be tight, but I think we haven't seen the huge reduction in staff that Aurora's done. So Aurora's let go of 500 people, including a lot of corporate executives who were making a lot of money, and they kind of basically scaled back their production to reduce the cash burn. So that isn't really equated. We're going to see that in the next quarterly report that they publish, that how they are going to be spending less cash, so they'll be able to survive longer with this cash balance. And 156 million is a solid cash balance, especially when things are shut down. They're going to have just lower overall costs because the company has been smaller. And one of the problems with Aurora is that they were just simply, I think, trying to grow too fast. With things like this, you want to take a slow and steady approach. You guys saw what happened with Luckin Coffee, that Chinese stock that I was talking about earlier, on how they tried to grow too fast, and it completely destroyed the company's reputation. And now they're probably going on facing bankruptcy with their T1 halted shares. So I think they'll be able to survive this, and this is definitely an inflection point for cannabis companies. I mentioned this earlier, guys. I thought 2020 was the year that we're going to see cannabis companies and cannabis stocks really do well. We're still waiting for federal legalization in the United States for cannabis. That would be a huge boom and a huge just positive signal, because not only that, but a lot of countries will follow suit legalizing cannabis if the United States does, and that is something that we're looking forward to happening post coronavirus. So probably most likely after the elections in September. So we got a lot of things going on in 2020, guys. This is going to be a ridiculously exciting yet challenging year in general, and definitely one that's going to be in the history books due to all the things that are going on. So yes, I think I'm sorry. Yes, I think Aurora Cannabis will survive this. I do think they have enough cash on their balance sheet to withstand this storm, but they also have a loan that's coming up in 2021, so they're going to need to figure out a way on how to obviously improve their free cash flow so they can stay afloat. So now I want to talk a bit more about some of the other challenges that the company is dealing with. So there's another interesting article posted on seekingalpha.com, and it simply talks about a bit more about what I was saying. It talks about how the revenue is falling as well. So that is obviously a problem, and of course Aurora Cannabis having to go into more debt. But one of the nice things that we see here with Aurora Cannabis is that even though the cash burn and things like that is much lower, they've actually been able to slow it down a bit. So that's what I was saying, guys. The cash burn is simply going down because the company is much smaller. So that's what we're really worried about here. The only way the company will stay in business if they can just slow down their spending. And they've been slowing down their spending, so that's a check mark. The second one is the delisting, which I talked about. The stock has been under $1 for 8 trading days. So your guess is as good as mine what's going to happen with that. The fact that would they do a reverse split? Well, they've just been issuing shares like crazy. So a reverse split would probably be the only way that they're going to stay on the New York Stock Exchange, unless the New York Stock Exchange changes their listing price requirements based on the coronavirus, because this is a unique time in history. So another thing I wanted to address in the article as well as how it talks about, it's very bearish basically on whether, it says it is yet to be established whether Canada's liberalization of its previously draconian policy towards recreational cannabis consumption is a net positive. The black market still strives and the financials of its licensed producers are in tatters. So guys, there's another problem that these companies are dealing with, and they're dealing with the black market on how recreational sellers are actually selling weed, competing with these companies. So there's just a lot of challenges ahead for Aurora Cannabis that are definitely not a good sign for the company. So we've got the delisting problem, we've got cash burn, we've got debt coming up in 2021, and then we've got the whole competition with the black market. So this is a time, probably the most negativity and the worst situation that I've ever seen Aurora Cannabis stock in since I've been following the stock. And like I said, I do own 650 shares in this company. Okay, so now I'm slightly up in my position. I have basically an overall cost basis of something around, the majority of my shares 68 cents. I'm sitting at around an overall cost basis of 79 cents. So now situations. So if you bought at the bottom, so I'll show you guys where I posted a video earlier talking about how I thought that cannabis stocks were at a bottom. So I posted that video a few weeks ago. If you purchase here, you're in a great spot because you're already up a bit. And even if you were to say, maybe you think that Canada and the United States and the world will go through a recession, and you're thinking that overall global GDP will decrease, which would definitely decrease spending on items like cannabis and cars and cell phones and stuff like that. So if you were to sell your stock, you're still up probably, if you bought at the bottom, you're still up 20-30%. So you could just simply stay on the sidelines. That's what a lot of people are doing. That's fine. If you're like me, you're thinking long term. So you're thinking 2025. If Aurora Cannabis survives, this is going to probably be the worst point in the history of the company, because we're going to go through a global recession and we're going to see a lot of consolidation. We're going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions for companies to stay afloat. We're going to see a lot of small businesses go under. A lot of street sellers will go under. They're not going to be selling weed. So if Aurora can just survive this I would say from April until June, July-ish, these next 3 months. Okay, so if they can just survive until I would say June, July or so, we're going to get more information, because I do expect revenue to improve a bit. It's obviously not going to improve because the revenue's been declining, but I do expect that cash burn to slow down a ton. So really, we just want the business to stay afloat right now. We're not really looking in terms of soaring sales and stuff like that, although Canada did experience a marijuana sales boom until the government forced them to close down stores. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario is if you bought this stock when it was way too expensive. So I told you guys I was waiting for Aurora Cannabis stock to go down because cannabis stocks had been plummeting in 2019 in general because prices were just simply out of whack. It was basically on hype. So if you bought here, you're already down a ton. So, there's a couple things you can do. If you simply are bullish long term in cannabis stocks, you can simply buy more, and that will average down and lower your cost per share, so that if Aurora Cannabis does survive, you're going to be sitting in the driver's seat. And then the third thing that's potential is that this is a wait and see for you. If you're looking for a cannabis stock that perhaps has a much stronger balance sheet, you probably want to look towards companies like Tilray and Canopy Growth. Canopy Growth has the largest market cap out of all these cannabis stocks that are publicly traded. And although I think it's pretty expensive, according to its price over sales ratio, I think it has the most chance of surviving. So if you guys this is too much for you and you don't want to risk seeing whether Aurora Cannabis will stay in business or not, look towards Canopy Growth. I just think it has a much stronger balance sheet. So what am I doing personally? Well, for me, I'm buying more. And the reason I'm buying more shares is because I like to buy companies like this when there's blood in the streets. So I'm not talking about well-established companies. For example, I talked about how I dumped my Ford stock because even though there's blood in the streets for Ford stock, that stock had been going down over the last 5 years. So that something is wrong with Ford company. It's not a broken stock. But all of the cannabis stocks have been trading down. So for me, this is basically a great buying opportunity for long-term investors. So for me, I'm going to be buying more shares of Aurora Cannabis and closely watching that 30-day consecutive rule. So I'm going to make a couple update videos about this, but I just wanted to share you guys, this is probably the worst time I've ever seen for Aurora Cannabis stock in general. So, but the good news is that if you take a look at the chart here, it does seem like investors are accumulating shares. So we could be in the phase one stage, and hopefully we're moving up to the next stage where if Aurora Cannabis survives, the stock will perform much better. And for you guys out there that are very patient, you should be rewarded. So that's it for now, guys. I hope this video helped clarify a lot of the negativity in the articles surrounding Aurora Cannabis. And let me know what you guys think. Do you think Aurora Cannabis stock will recover? Do you think they'll go out of business? Do you think they'll go bankrupt? What's your opinion on this? Really appreciate your comments, guys. So that's it for now, guys. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos, because I post videos about stocks every day. So every time when you subscribe and you hit that notification bell, you'll get a notification when I post a new video. So that's it for now, guys. Until next time, take care.